Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session. Today's session is very special because I am on IDC platform in this session for the first time. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for today's session, which is very special because engineering and technology are, we consider them as conventional careers, but I always say that in today's scenario and for future success, even conventional careers need to be pursued in an unconventional way. And we have seen that, engineering industry has been at the forefront of all the technological advancements. And technology has affected numerous engineering fields. For example, this artificial intelligence, this allows people, all the professionals to automate the routine tasks, analyze data, predict the future trends. And engineers use various kinds of technology to accelerate the product, development. And in fact, not only that, decision making, if you look at the, finance sector, how the decisions were being made have also changed just because there is a change in the sector of engineering and technology. People rely on AI algorithms to predict the trends, and then they make their investment choices accordingly. If I talk about the expansion of engineering and technology, it has affected every part of our life. Whether we talk about the customer service, chatbot, look at the interaction what we are having right now on this platform, where we can only request each other to switch on the videos and we can hear. And I'm talking to so many people from different states at the same point. If I look at the way people do shopping, the e-commerce, everything has changed. Earlier, I personally used to go to a particular shop to purchase certain groceries and all, and now Blinkit solves all the purpose. Data science, market analysis. I still remember few years back. I used to in during the summer vacations, people used to come home, for certain kind of surveys, and now all surveys are done just with a Google form or some kind of polling which is done. So all these technological advancements, we say, people say that, oh, they are replacing jobs. They are not replacing jobs. They are also creating career growth opportunities in many fields. Engineering has changed its shape. So as AI technologies continues to evolve, the field of engineering will also continue to evolve. And they have not only impacted the tasks we perform, but also fundamentally, they have changed the job landscape of all kinds of professions. So in order to discuss these, the future interdisciplinary careers in engineering and technology, we have a special guest today here, Vikram Patel, who is the Director Outreach, Plaksha University. Thank you so much, Vikram, for accepting this invitation.
My pleasure. Happy to be on the same platform with you.
Thank you. And I'm sure today's students are going to gain a lot from your discussion. And before I start off, I would like to introduce Vikram. Vikram is the Director Outreach for all the undergrad and summer programs at Plaksha University. He has over 10 years of experience in education and has worked across the domains in higher ed. He's a rank holder and graduate in computer applications from Mangalore University and has a master's degree in business from ITM Business School, Mumbai. Prior to taking up the promotion of interdisciplinary engineering programs at Plaksha, he has worked on creating awareness about liberal arts and sciences education at Kriya, along with me, and Ahmedabad University. In his current role at Plaksha, he's committed to create awareness about emerging technologies and highlight the intersection between various fields like biology, economics, finance, business with technology. And he believes that students consider project-based learning, research, faculty, peer group, etc., in their core decision-making process. So, Vikram, let's start the conversation. So, first, I would like to ask you, when we look at engineering as a field. If I look at the historical evolution, I can see that there is a shift from that artisan skills to the formal disciplines, which were centered on manufacturing, and that led to the specializations like civil engineering, mechanical engineering, and hundreds of fields of engineering. So I would just like to request you to provide some insights into how the world of work in this particular field of engineering and technology has evolved in the last few decades, I can say. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Meenu. And, a lot has changed. I think if you were to compare disciplines, if a student is today studying commerce, subjects like business, history, political science, marketing, the core disciplines actually don't change much, right? Because the concepts remain the same. But if you think of the field of tech, it's upside down every 6 months. Look at generative AI and what it's done. See, AI is an old discipline. There's research that's been happening in the field of AI for the last 30 years. But the kind of work that has happened just in the last 2 years is just phenomenal, and like you rightly said, I don't know how many of our audiences know this, but the first IIT to be set up in India was IIT Kharagpur, right? Back in about 1950s. And you're absolutely right. At that time, we needed engineers who did very core jobs. There was, civil engineering. We needed people to build bridges, to roads, infrastructure. You needed mechanical engineers because, manufacturing was coming up, and we needed specialized mechanical engineers to work in automobile, mobility, several other sectors. You needed chemical engineers because, that was the kind of research that was happening at that time. But if you look at engineering today, most colleges in India and many universities across the world still practice. They're very, very siloed disciplines. After 80 years of being in existence, there's still, courses like metallurgy, ship engineering, mining, that's still being taught in most colleges. But if you've looked at the industry, it's changing leaps and bounds, every few months. So I feel there is a big gap, and that's why you see this huge gap between what the industry expects of an engineer and the kind of engineers that, say for example, Indian colleges are preparing them for. So there is, and fields like computer science, it's very new field, right? It's about 2, 3, 4 decades old. Even that, as a, like when I studied computer science, we had to write every line of code, PHP, SQL, Java. These are subjects, languages that we learned. And kahin ek चौथे पेज में एक flower bracket missing होता था, the code doesn't work, and we would go mad to looking for that bug. But cut to today, you have technologies like AI, where ChatGPT, which is a public platform, you can actually paste your whole code and in 3 seconds it will tell you where the error is. It's changed so fast, just in about 10 years. So, anyone who's thinking about making a career in tech should really keep up with what's happening around the world, what are emerging trends in technology, and seriously think about this. I think that's what I would like to start with.
Okay, now as you have said that, you have done computer science and things have changed so much since then. So if I stand here today and I look forward, so how do you see this technology emerging for future? Because, many times when students ask me also, ma'am, which computer science course to do, with liberal arts or BTech course, we don't know which language will be required in future. So if I talk about future, what is your vision that how this future of technology is changing, and how a student, who is planning to study engineering or technology, how they should make this decision, how this change is happening?
Very important question. It's a very, I was talking to my neighbor, me saying, what is this? And, what should I study? What disciplines should I take? It's a very hard question. You can't answer it because, it depends. There are thousands of students. First of all, I think it's important to understand whether you have an aptitude to become an engineer. I think that's the most important question, right? Because engineering is a hard discipline. You should love mathematics to be able to do engineering, and you should be really good at it. So first is to look at aptitude and passion. But otherwise, if you look at the macro trends, right? I just want to talk about the history of industrial revolutions, and that's the slide that I pulled up. Just go back about 300 years ago when we started the first industrial revolution, right? It was about factory line, steam engines. The invention of steam engines were the first industrial revolution. Second one was factory line manufacturing when we started mass production in about 1800s. The third one was about automation and IT and computers. And suddenly, at that time also people thought computers are going to take away our jobs. Internet has just made us obsolete. But we're here still 40 years later, and we're all doing well. I think it's important for people to understand that companies, any big company of the world, today is looking at people who can solve problems for them. Okay. So problem solving is at the core of all education, all companies, all work. When you have to solve problems, today's problems are much more complex than what we faced in the past. Any problem that you face in humanity today will require you to think from multiple lenses. So if you think of engineering, that's the same thing. If you look at the World Economic Forum, the definition of fourth industrial revolution that we are in right now says that there is no boundary between what is physical, what is digital, and what is biological. Now, if I were to give you an example, Neuralink, right? Neuralink is a Elon Musk company, and they have created nano chips that can get inserted in your brain, and you can download your memory. I just read about 2 weeks ago, they've patented a technology through which you can play Counter-Strike without holding any handheld device, just with that chip that's in your brain.
Oh my God.
So now think of such technology. It is a biologist that works with a neuroscientist, that works with a technologist, some electrical engineer that works with somebody who can code stuff. This is what we mean by no boundaries between biology, physics, digital technology. So that's where we are heading. But unfortunately, most universities focus still on giving very siloed disciplines. That is where the challenge is. So I would suggest that when students, जब बच्चे 10वीं 11वीं 12वीं में होते हैं, जब वो बोलते हैं कि सर मेरे को कंप्यूटर साइंस करना है, first find out whether you really want to do it. But with computer science, what is the problem that you're going to solve? Are you going to solve for food security? Will you work in the field of agriculture? Will you work in the field of fintech? Will you work in the field of health? Will you work in the field of mobility? Or, so I think agar bachche or parents, if they're able to find out the problem that they want to solve, then they can go to a university that can specialize them in that kind of an area and give multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary problem solving skills. इसके बिना वही होगा कि बच्चे स्कूल में कंप्लेन करते कि ये सब्जेक्ट पता नहीं क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं, कॉलेज में भी जाके वही कंप्लेन करेंगे कि सर ये पता नहीं, क्योंकि the way it's taught is also very, very, different. So I feel we're going towards a more and more problem solving, interdisciplinary kind of a future, and engineering has to change.
Okay. So you mean to say that even engineering students should adopt an interdisciplinary approach?
Right, from BCG, Boston Consulting Group, which is one of the world's biggest consulting firms, right? These are the 9 technologies that are going to revolutionize, or, these are the 9 areas where there's a lot of future. For example, biotech, jo field hai, that generally, if you ask an engineering student who's taking advanced, he would put bio as the last option. There's computer science, electrical, mechanical, civil. But very few know this, that 60% of all research that happens in the world in the field of engineering happens in the field of biology. Because this intersection between biology and tech is going to solve one of the biggest problems that humanity today faces, which is in the field of health. Human health, aap dekh lijiye, across the world, people have problems, the kind of diseases, the kind of, things like COVID that happens is going to happen more and more often now because we have a very globally connected world. If you look at environmental engineering, Meenu, you and me live in Delhi, we can't breathe for 4 months. And this is not a future problem. Ye to aaj ki problem hai na. So And when you think of this intersection between biology and tech, or think of big data, data is the new oil that companies run on. Companies like Google, India has the cheapest data plans in the world, but because we're paying through our data, it's not cheap because it's cheap. It's because
Mm.
you're paying through data. So, this intersection between economics and business and technology, such a beautiful thing for us to look at. So I feel we are moving towards more and more interdisciplinary things. And there's also a lot of integration with other disciplines like, humanities and social sciences. One of the biggest careers that's coming up is called AI ethicists. Somebody who knows computing and math, but can also learn subjects like philosophy.
Mm.
बच्चों को पता होना चाहिए कि क्या टेक्नोलॉजी इन्वेंट करनी चाहिए, क्या नहीं करनी चाहिए. तो that's the kind of engineers Google is looking for. That's why
Yes.
out of 20 lakh engineers, Google would hire like 200-300. So if you want to be in that top bracket, you need interdisciplinarity.
I think that's such a valid point, and this reminds me that yesterday I was reading an article, and it said for climate change, whatever is happening around us, we have to, increase the production of corals, in the sea. So I was thinking, what
Wow.
is technology going to do in that? And that was a beautiful evidence which they had shown that how these corals are, disappearing from the sea, which is very, very important to meet to keep the ecological balance. And for that, they said we need technology. So such a otherwise, I see that whenever a student thinks about computer science or technology, they think about only IBM kind of companies, Facebook, Google, only that. And you brought about such a relevant point that, doing these courses, you can still work in any sector. And that reminds me of one more case. One child said that, ma'am, I want to work in the area of space, but I love psychology. So I said, yeah, you can, as a psychologist also, you don't need to be an engineer or a technological person to work in NASA. They give training to the people who do the various kinds of, experiments, or who go to space. If Kalpana Chawla went, there is a proper training which is given to them, because psychologically they need to be very resilient. So that's perfectly gelled with the kind of changes which are taking place, and that brings me to another question, Vikram. That when we are saying interdisciplinary approaches, so I consider it as one of the important skills. If you want to, like I said, even if you want to pursue a conventional career, pursue it in an unconventional way, and I think interdisciplinary approach is the answer. But apart from this, do you think as an engineer, I also need to learn, so as to say, soft skills? As an engineer, is it necessary for me to be an emotionally balanced person also? Because I'm going to work on the computer, I'm going to do the coding, or if I'm a mechanical engineer, electronic engineer, I'm going to work with machines. So, can you just throw some light on that and give some examples to the students?
Sure. No, I think one thing I want to clarify, right, to all the students. See, people who came before me, my generation, people work, took a job, वहीं पे 30-40 साल उन्होंने काम किए, उसी कंपनी से रिटायर होके वो चले गए. In my generation, we change jobs, we change industries very often, right? I change job every 3-4 years. I'm in the third industry that I'm in. I love education now, so I've stuck around. But I know people who change industries very often. And these kids who are probably attending this webinar, or kids who are in the 10th, 11th, 12th now, they will go into a workplace which is very different from what you and I know, Meenu. They might not have full-time jobs. We are moving towards a gig economy, जहाँ पे a graduate will work on one project for 3 months, and then another project in another industry for 3 months. So that is why I think all of us are talking about transferable skills that are not subject to a particular problem or a particular industry. Jesse, I'll give you an example. Resilience is such a such a skill that is so underrated. But in our teams, when we hire, you've hired, I've hired, we hire people all the time, and we know people who hire other people. Resilience is such a, the ability to fail is such an underrated skill. आजकल क्या हो गया है, and it's not to blame the kids. Poor things, when they go to school, we only talk about marks. Kitna marks aaya? Aapka marks batao. How did you fail? Failure is not even now, less than 85% is not considered marks in all fairness, right? So when we talk of how we assess students, so it's not their fault, but the ability to fail is such an important skill, because failure teaches you a lot more than when you succeed many times, right? So companies want people who can challenge themselves. आजकल क्या हो गया, 10th में थोड़ा math नहीं पसंद है, तो people will say, okay, I'll drop math and I won't take it. But when you go to a job, you can't say, sir, I don't know this, I won't be able to do it. Then they'll hire somebody else, right? So they want people who can challenge themselves, take hard decisions, try and try and try and not give up. That's a very important skill in engineering. There is communication, collaboration. Collaboration is, this Neuralink example that I spoke about. There, a biologist, a neurobiologist probably will have to work with an engineer, and they are two different people. If you can't work with each other, if you don't have empathy towards each other's problems, you will never be able to solve a problem. So if you want, see, even at Plaksha, when they come, kids don't want to go to Infosys and Wipro and TCS, and, these are very low, sorry to say, but very low-end tech jobs, right? They all want to work for companies like Meta and Facebook and Amazon. If you have dreams of going into good companies, they want people who have domain expertise is non-compromisable. Huh? Let me tell you this, that when we talk of liberal education, depth cannot be compromised, especially in the field of engineering. Because when companies come, they grill you. They put you through 6-7 rounds of coding tests. So generally, math, computing, data is non-compromisable. उसमें तो आपको अच्छा होना ही है. But उसके बाद, they also want you to be able to think about projects, ask the right questions, collaborate with people who are not like you, empathize, be resilient. This is non-negotiable, because whether you are in engineering, or suppose tomorrow you go into client success, or day after you become an entrepreneur, you are going to require all of these skills. And that is why you are right that soft skills, there's no compromise on that.
And that brings me to another point. In fact, I was just thinking that so many marketing companies, when they do the data analysis and when they're designing programs, they study that particular age group, that particular culture so deeply that the entire questionnaire and all the strategies, business strategies, are based on that. So it's very important. You rightly said, as empathy, unless and until you empathize with that particular target audience, you won't be able to generate that particular program. So Vikram, what do you think that the kind of universities nowadays we have, do you think these universities are preparing our students who are really interested and have the aptitude to pursue engineering and technology? So according to you, what is a good technological or technical university?
Lots of things, right? I mean, it's, education is hard because while the industry is changing so fast, you also need faculty members, you need an ecosystem to teach. You need advanced courses, you need labs, you need so many things, right? I'll give you an example. Data science is such a huge career. All of us know data science is going to be one of the biggest things. There is very few universities in the world that has PhD in data science. How do you get faculty members to teach data science when you don't have a PhD in data science? These are the kind of challenges that education universities face. PhD नहीं है तो ज़्यादा लोगों ने research नहीं करी है, तो how can they teach? So that is one challenge, right? So I'll just share my slide and sort of talk about this.
Yeah, please.
See, when generally we ask students, right? I mean, and parents को especially पूछते हैं, तो ज़्यादातर ये वाले questions आते हैं कि legacy होनी चाहिए, सुना होना चाहिए नाम, सर पॉपुलर होनी चाहिए. एक और क्वेश्चन मेरे को पूछना है सब ऑडियंस से, एंड थिंक अबाउट दिस, राइट? एंड इफ समबडी हैज एन आंसर यू शुड शेयर इट. इज व्हेन पेरेंट्स थिंक अबाउट स्कूल एजुकेशन, जब स्कूल में भर्ती करना होता है, तो पीपल प्रेफर पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटीज और पब्लिक स्कूल्स और प्राइवेट स्कूल्स?
प्राइवेट स्कूल.
या एवरीबडी सेज प्राइवेट, बट जब भी इन्हीं बच्चों को यूनिवर्सिटी के बारे में सोचते हैं, डू वी थिंक अबाउट प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज और पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटीज?
Yes, audience.
Public. Why? Why is the question? Why school education is always good in private, and why when we think of
100% government and public?
100% public? So this is a very important question for us to think about. That क्या है ऐसा कि स्कूल में हमें प्राइवेट स्कूल चाहिए, but when it comes to university it's public? It is because we don't have too much time, to sort of take up the answers. Generally ये होता है कि public universities have always focused on quality. Generally, they've had good faculty members, they focus on research, they control student intake, they don't take everybody. There's a large number of people who apply to those places and they take very few. They can control all that, right? That's why generally people prefer public institutions. But one of the bigger reasons that nobody thinks about is also because public universities get government funding. Funding is the core issue between public and private. Director of the IIT can say, I will only admit 100 students in computer science. But if he needs 500 crore for a new auditorium, he doesn't care if the fees doesn't come, right? Because the government will fund the new auditorium. But a private university has to think about where the money is going to come from for infrastructure, for facilities. So generally, people think of public universities as universities that are trying to make money. And that has rightly also been true in India for the last 20, 30 years. Mostly it's been started by, government, like these politicians or real estate companies or corporations. But in the last 10, 15 years, there's true philanthropy that's coming into education. A lot of entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, who have a lot of money, who are saying that, enough is enough. Now we need to create top class institutions that are thinking about global education, that are thinking about creating research-based programs, that are thinking about creating cutting-edge programs that don't have the bureaucracy of the government universities, right? That's what's happening. You've worked in an institution like that, and so have I, in several of them. So generally, to answer your question, legacy is something that people generally look at. Placements, बहुत लोग देखते हैं कि placement क्या है, आप हमें बताओ, salary कितनी मिलेगी. Fees is another consideration, campus and student life, what majors are taught. But generally, Meenu, the answer, what makes a good tech university, it is a combination of all of this. But according to me, one of the most important factors is faculty. Anybody with money can make great buildings, great infrastructure. But good faculty will only go to places that has good environment, good students, good research facilities. So if it was only one factor on which you have to decide, I would say faculty. I want to share this, Meenu. I was talking to Professor Bala. Professor Bala is a distinguished visiting professor at Plaksha. He was the head of strategy at IIT Delhi. And before that, for 10 years, he was with IIT Delhi for about 30 years. I was talking to him. I said, Professor Bala, how would you advise somebody? He says, Vikram, faculty mein na 4 category hoti. First category is if every faculty member of a university have their own website. That is the best university that you can ever get. Because that means that faculty member is doing so much research that they need their own website, that they're talking to external people, they're talking about their publications. Second category is at least every faculty member has a microsite on their homepage. कि चलो एक और पेज खुलता है जहाँ पे उनके teachings के बारे में लिखा है, their papers are written, their PhD details are written. Third category is a university that at least lists their website, faculty members, नाम PhD तो डाल देंगे. And the fourth is who don't talk about their faculty. So the ideal thing is to look at faculty, right? But generally, even after this, a few more things that I would highly advise people to look at is pedagogy. And many people sometimes, for everybody's understanding, pedagogy is how you teach something. See, if you go to any engineering school in the world, every tech university will teach you calculus, they will teach you linear algebra, they will teach you integration differentiation. वो तो हर एक कोई पढ़ाएगा. So how is MIT so different, or how is IIT Bombay so different? If the curriculum is the only thing, it's not the curriculum. Curriculum तो होता ही है, but how it is delivered is more important. एक तो मैं आपको एक बुक दे दूं कि मीनू आप ये कैलकुलस की बुक पढ़ के सीख लो, या तो I can show you a movie saying, okay, this is a movie on, say, Udemy, now learn calculus. Or I will give you a real world problem and say, Meenu, this is a financial trading issue. And now you use this formula of calculus, and now you see how calculus can help you solve a problem. How will you learn better?
Of course, the second one.
So that is what makes a big difference. And mostly in India, when I ask parents and students, have you visited any university or considering? And most of the times they don't. हमें शर्ट भी खरीदना होता है तो हम मॉल जाके पहन के देखते हैं ना, बट यूनिवर्सिटी ऐसी आग जिस जिस दिन ज्वाइन करना उस दिन यूनिवर्सिटी जाएंगे. प्लीज गो आउट, गो टू 4-5 यूनिवर्सिटीज, टॉक टू स्टूडेंट्स देयर. वहां जाके बच्चों से बात करो और पता करो कि क्लास में होता क्या है, अच्छी पढ़ाई होती है कि नहीं होती. And pedagogy makes everything. So according to me, a good university should have great faculty, good pedagogy, real world exposure, uh, opportunities for internships. The curriculum should be relevant and updated. They should create an ecosystem jahan pe everybody wants to succeed. There should be a passion, hunger for success. I think that's, according to me, an ideal university.
Thank you so much. This was very, very insightful. And so if I talk about Plaksha, Vikram, so on these parameters, how will you define and explain Plaksha?
Thank you.
And what kind of, Plaksha is giving, if you can combine these two things?
Sure. So Plaksha has very different kind of programs, right? So we don't offer typically civil, mechanical, electrical. We don't offer such programs because we feel they're sometimes not directly connected to what the industry is looking at, right? So we offer 4 undergraduate programs. One is we feel that emerging technology is something that students need to learn, right? AI, machine learning, natural language processing, quantum computing, computer vision. All of these are very important, whether you work in chatbot, cybersecurity, all of these places. So one of the first programs we offer is called Computer Science and AI. This is this is an extension of the traditional CSE major that's generally offered, right? The second one that we offer is at the intersection of biology and tech. And I truly feel that this intersection between biology, mathematics, and computing is the next big thing. If you read about the genome project, the genome sequencing that happened, just think about this. The biggest discovery in the field of biology happened just 20 years ago. In the 2000 years, just 20 years ago. So we are at the precipice of change when it comes to integration of technology and biology. Aap sustainable farming dekh lo. As engineers, you can improve produce. Plaksha, for example, has a sugarcane farm on campus, jahan pe we use drones to understand soil moisture, sunlight. We use biopesticides to see what kind of sustainable farmings. Our students are now developing a technology jahan pe we can detect which are the 2 best days in the year that you should harvest sugarcane so that you get the best produce. Stuff like this can be done by engineers. You don't all have to go to Bangalore and wear a patta around your neck and work in an IT company, So this is another field, epidemiology, environmental engineering. So there is so much that can be done. And that is why we offer one more major called biosystems engineering. In fact, gene editing, today all of us know about, the Parkinson's disease, for example, which is a terminal illness. There's no cure for it. But today, the field of genetic engineering, you can actually identify Parkinson's very early, and you can actually correct those gene sequences using CRISPR-Cas. There's so much research happening in cancer, in the field of genetic engineering. In fact, I would like to recommend everyone who's watching this webinar कि एक Netflix का show है, Explained. उसमें एक episode है which is called Designer DNA. Please watch that 20-minute episode to understand what is happening in the field of genetic engineering, right? The third one is called Robotics and Cyber-Physical Systems. ये हमने क्या किया है कि we realize that most machines today are intelligent. That is why just doing a mechanical won't help you. You need mechanical, you need electrical, and you also need computer science. Generally, मीनू अगर आपको पता होगा 10-15 साल पहले they also started mechatronics, where it was a combination of mechanical and electrical. Now even that is not enough because most machines have very complicated code. AI, ML is part of machines. So now you need a degree which is called cyber physical systems because everything is cyber physical. And unfortunately, most universities in the world still have a mechanical, electrical, computer science separately taught. And finally, we have a program called Data Science, Economics and Business. क्योंकि हमें लगता है किसी भी आप इंडस्ट्री में देख लो. Now I'll give you a very simple example also here, right? Uber. Now Uber has search price modeling, right? If you book Uber at 12 in the afternoon versus 5 in the evening, 5 will be more expensive, right? Because the supply is very low, demand is very high. अब वो मॉडल कर क्या रहा है? सप्लाई एंड डिमांड देख रहा है. जनरली सप्लाई एंड डिमांड इज taught in economics. It's trying to increase profit for Uber. That is the motive of that model. So profit and loss and generally accounting is taught in business courses. But the model is based on data. So this is the most obvious combination to teach data science along with economics and business. So these are the kind of programs that Plaksha offers. And quickly to tell you who we are as a university. So Plaksha is a model of collective philanthropy. We feel this is the model that works the best. Ashoka University is one such example, which is also based on collective philanthropy. Kriya is another university. What happens in this model is, in this model, we are not dependent on one family or one corporation for money, or there is no ownership. So nobody can influence what should be taught, how many students to take, who faculty should be hired. There's a lot of independence. So Plaksha also has people, you've heard of companies like Make My Trip, Naukri.com, 99 Acres, Policy Bazaar, Genpact, the former CEO of TCS, the Asia Pacific chairman of BCG, Havells, Axis Bank, HDFC, you name it. And we have all these founders who are founders of Plaksha, right? In fact, India's first AI unicorn, Fractal Analytics, the founder of that company is also a founder of Plaksha. So these are the kind of people who started Plaksha. In fact, Plaksha's journey started in 2009 when a lot of the first set of IIT Delhi graduates got together and they said, we want to start a university. But हमसे पहले अशोका शुरू हो गई. And then again in 2015, they got together and said, no, we want a tech university. And that's when Plaksha came about, and that's who we are. Our partnerships, for example, include top universities of the world, places like Berkeley, UPenn, Cornell, and students actually go to places like UC San Diego for a semester-long research project. We do summer programs. Berkeley, for example, is very recently, Berkeley and Plaksha together launched a minor in entrepreneurship tech at Plaksha. In our master's program, actually, Berkeley faculty teach. So that's the kind of collaboration. We've also signed with IIIT Hyderabad. So students from Plaksha can actually do a semester at IIIT Hyderabad. And stuff like this is possible, right? The kind of faculty that teach, I can go on, but generally, I think what we've done is we've got the best minds from the West and India to come together. Dr. Rudra Pratap actually was a deputy director at Indian Institute of Science for about 20 years. He set up the Nanoscience and Technology Center at IISc. Professor Shankar Shastri was the Dean of Engineering at Berkeley. So these are the people who sort of look at Plaksha's education, even full-time faculty members. Very rarely will you find this quality of faculty. Prakarsh, आप देख रहे हो top row में. Prakarsh did a PhD from LSE. Then he taught at Amherst for about 6-7 years. Then he was a senior economist in Amazon in Seattle for about 10 years. Now he teaches data science at Plaksha. So I think that helps, Meenu, and I can take more questions.
And great to know the faculty. And this reminds me in ancient times, and people used to say that you want to gain knowledge under which guru. So guru used to define the entire cohort. So I can very much relate to it. Another question which comes to my mind, you talked about biosystem engineering, which you have. Now, there are many students who take PCB only or PCM only. They don't take bio or maths. Very less number of students go for the toughest combination in their terminology as PCMB. So, what are the eligibility criteria if somebody wants to apply? Does that matter? Do they need to give JE exam? So, how does the admission takes place?
So, Meenu, for us, Plaksha is philanthropic. And what we do is we admit students based on their holistic profiles. So, what we do is we don't want to have our own admission test because kids, poor things, they write like a million tests when they come to grade 12. We didn't want to add our own test. So we look at grades from the 9th onwards, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. We are a very rigorous program, right? Technology generally is a very, very rigorous program. So we need students who have the academic ability to be able to cope up with the program. So first step is to give us a good academic score. And Plaksha is very, very serious about looking at mathematics. So generally in class 10th and 12th, you should have exceptional scores in mathematics, right? And overall as well. So either you give us good board scores, whether you're writing the CBSE exam or the ISE board or the state board exams, we can look at your board scores. That's one way for you to come to Plaksha. The second is through JE. So we really like the JE exam because it tests very high level of mathematics, physics. So that's another way that if you give us a good score in JE, that is also acceptable. Or you give us an SAT score. Now, SAT, the issue sometimes when we find is that SAT doesn't test the level of math that a CBSE exam would or a JE would. But still, you can give us a JE score. So these are the ways in which you can show us your academic prowess. And then we also look at extracurriculars, essays. We look at Olympiads, online courses, research papers, internships, sports, music, theater, anything you've done. And in Plaksha, in a class of say 100 students, you will have 15, 20 head boys, head girls, prefects of schools. You have national level sports players. You have NTSC scholars. You have musicians. You have writers, authors. So that is all the composition. But all of them interested in tech and all of them who can do well academically. So that's the first step of application. Post that, if you get shortlisted, there are a couple of rounds of interviews. One is a technical interview where the questions on math and physics, and then there's a regular interview which asks you other things. So this is the admission process, and the eligibility is that you should have mathematics. Currently, that is the only eligibility. And physics is highly recommended. But Meenu, from this year onwards, we've also felt that PCB kids who don't have mathematics, some of them are interested in the biosystems engineering program. So from this year, we might allow them to also apply. And for the first 2-3 rounds is when they'll have to apply, and they'll have to take an additional assessment in mathematics at the end of their year. Matlab, if they apply early and they get their decision by March, April, after their board exams, we might recommend a course or two for them through a Udemy or something. You have to finish a math course and then take an assessment. And if they clear that assessment, we'll give them admission. And we'll have a bridge program for them because they might not have done math at the level that we want. But we want to allow them to apply to Plaksha.
I think that's quite insightful, and I think many students who don't have maths, it's a respite for them that they can also apply. Suppose if I'm say in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th beginning, and I just want to experience Plaksha, maybe through a summer program, because many students nowadays during their summer vacations, they keep looking for short-term courses. So do you have some course, where they can come in the earlier classes and can have a flair of, what Plaksha is all about? And in the meanwhile, I will request all the audience, please raise your hand or type a question, because I have asked a lot of questions, but I would love the audience also to participate. So please keep writing your questions in the chat box. Yes, Vikram, what about the summer schools and all?
Yeah. So Plaksha offers a summer program. This is open for students who are in the grade 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Anyone who's in these grades, they can come to Plaksha for 2 months, 2 weeks in the summer. And the program is called Young Technology Scholars. तो उसमें क्या होता है कि for 2 weeks in June you come to Plaksha if you get selected, and in those 2 weeks we will teach you a little bit about tech, we'll teach you a little bit about biomimicry, basics in robotics, Arduino programming. You have faculty members from Plaksha who teach you. We also have faculty from Harvard Medical School, from Northeastern University who've come full time to teach the program. So it's a fantastic, I think probably one of India's only rigorous tech summer school that Plaksha offers, right? And the second week, kids actually work on real world projects. And we have had students who've created, for instance, a ECG measuring machine from scratch. Or there is a student group that develops biofuel using algae. Or there was another group that created a line following robot. और ये ना प्रोजेक्ट्स सुनने में बहुत आसान लगते हैं, बट व्हेन किड्स फ्रॉम ग्रेड 9 to 11 they sit to actually work on it start to scratch, they have so many frustrations, they get failure, but it's a group project. And this is also the first time that most of these kids are away from home, they're away from their parents, from a very very cushioned environment, they're in a university suddenly, and they also see, this also builds aspiration. क्योंकि आपके साथ ना 200 ऐसे बच्चे होते हैं पूरी देश से जो आए हैं, who also want to be engineers, who also want to solve problems. So you meet people from other cities, other socio-economic backgrounds. So it's a very fun summer program that we have. Anybody who is interested in problem solving can actually think of the YTS program at Plaksha.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Vikram. Yes, audience, any questions? Anything related to career or admission process? Okay, so there is a question by Sita. I think she's working in a school. So Sita has a question. Our students are in IGCSE curriculum. If they chose maths, chemistry, bio, will Plaksha has any courses for them? So that means they don't have physics. If a student doesn't have physics but has maths, chemistry, and biology, can this still apply?
Absolutely. Students can apply. So math, as I said, is the only mandatory subject that we need. If they don't have physics, they can apply. Only thing is when they come into the program, Ms. Sita, that they will have to do courses in physics. They just have to be aware of that there will be one or two courses like intelligent machines, which will have concepts of physics that are going to be taught to them. So as long as they're open to the idea of learning physics, they can absolutely apply and come to the program.
Geeta has a question. What is the criteria for the summer program?
So summer program, as I said, anybody from 9th to 12th can apply. Generally, बच्चे जो 10th complete करते हैं वो ज़्यादा आते हैं या 9th से ज़्यादा आते हैं, because 11th के बाद you are going to 12th board, so they don't come. But in the summer program, there is an application process. There are 2 or 3 critical thinking questions in the application only, and then there are 1 or 2 essays. So we don't look at academic scores for the summer program. It is just the intent, the passion, the ability to solve problems. That's all that we look at. And it's first come, first serve basis. We have very limited seats.
Okay. So I think Nritya has a similar question. She's asking, does it have any selection process for young, and by when should they apply for this program? I think one part you have already answered, but by when they should apply?
So generally, January is when we start the application. Feb is when we start, and we intend to close the application by April, mid-April, actually early April. So Feb and March are the best months to apply. And I would suggest that you apply as early as possible.
And the minimum qualification in the sense grade 9 students.
8th coming into 9th can apply.
Okay. Piyush has a question. I think he wants to apply. Can a commerce students with maths apply BTech because of his interest in the tech field?
So Piyush, yes, the technical answer is you can apply. But as I said, so and there are students out of say 190 that have come to Plaksha in the fourth year, we have about not more than maybe 7 or 10 students who don't have physics and other courses. It's a small percentage, but as long as you are aware that you will have to learn physics and you might have to learn some other science programs the first three semesters in Plaksha are common for everyone. It's called the freshmore curriculum. Okay, which means that whether you do computer science or you do robotics or you do biosystems, all of you have to do the foundation program, which will have a core in physics or a core in technology, a core in mathematics. So as long as you're aware of that and you come with that awareness, you will have to put in a lot more work than other students. It's okay.
Okay. So Veer wants to know, where is Plaksha?
We are located in Chandigarh. Sorry, I missed that. We are located in, so technically it's Mohali, but it's 10 minutes away from Chandigarh airport. So it's in the Tri-City area, if any of you know about. So Chandigarh is, by the way, one of the most livable cities in India, the most beautifully planned, very good weather, clean air, good water, good lifestyle. And Chandigarh has these three cities. So actually Chandigarh is one, there's Mohali, and then there is Panchkula. So it's called the Tri-City area. So it's we have a 50-acre campus. And I didn't show too many videos here, but if you go on YouTube or Google and search about Plaksha, you'll get like a ton of material.
And what about the fee structure, Vikram? He wants to know.
Thank you, Ketki. This is a very important question. So fees at Plaksha is actually a range. It depends on a lot of factors. A student who's a full paying student would pay around 10 lakhs a year. So 7.5 is tuition and about 2.5 lakhs is living expenses. But Plaksha is a fully philanthropic university, and we don't want any student to miss out Plaksha education because they can't afford it. So in many ways, anybody can afford to study at Plaksha. And I'll tell you how this works. So suppose you are a family who's from the middle class background or from economically weaker sections. If any family applies to us whose family income is less than 15 lakhs a year, we practically give them there's no fees. The tuition is made zero. You have to only pay living expenses. So I think technically, if your family income is less than 40 lakhs a year, you are eligible for some form of financial aid, right? So we have very generous financial aid programs. अगर ऐसा कोई बच्चा होता है जिसकी family income 2-3 लाख से कम है, तो then in that case we give them tuition, living, food, laptop, एक बारी घर जाना, travel. We actually give them stipend. So money is the last criteria. First, you get admission. That is difficult. But if you get admission, we will ensure that you will be able to afford the program at Plaksha. In fact, हमारी application fees भी नहीं है, zero है. So we are not really about money. We have lots of donors like Axis Bank and Bharti Airtel. They give scholarships to our students. So that's one way. And we also have merit scholarships. So if anybody who's exceptional, क्योंकि हमारा एंट्री ही इतना हाई है कि मेरिट स्कॉलरशिप का क्राइटेरिया बहुत हाई है. बट इफ यू आर इन दैट criteria of the top 10% of the class, even there we give scholarships of up to 100%. So last time, anybody who had a 98 percentile or above in JEE mains had actually got a 100% scholarship.
Piyush has another question. Sir, there are some practical, like not curriculum on books, because tech needs practical experiment and research lab. I think Piyush is talking about what he likes to do. Rather than pursuing CA, he wants to focus on physics. Thank you, Piyush, for sharing with us.
And Piyush, just to tell you, absolutely, engineering is all about practical learnings. So every course will have lab components. In fact, in math also, for Plaksha, even math programs have lab components. So most of what you do is project-based learning. And if you look at the assessment criteria at Plaksha, not more than 50% of your grade can come from midterm and end term, which means that most of the assessment happens through the year. अभी हमारे प्रॉब्लम ये है कि बच्चों को मार्क्स एग्जाम सिर्फ एक आता है लास्ट में, और सब बच्चे 10 दिन पहले पढ़ाई करते हैं, फिर दे crack. So that's not the right way of assessment. So at Plaksha, every week you have assessment, class participation, projects, quizzes. So it's all project based.
Great, great. Alan, thank you. I'm glad that you liked the session. If you want to know what are the other topics in future, just go to the IDC website and you will get all the information there. Otherwise, my team can be in touch with you. You must have registered. Sita ma'am is asking, our school will start by June. So how can our students attend summer program?
So ma'am, our program is generally in June, but this time we understand that if you're in West India or in South, generally schools start by the 10th of June. So उस time पे थोड़ी मुश्किल होती है, but this time we might have one more batch which will be early, maybe last week of May and first week of June. That's what we are planning. So we'll keep you posted.
Okay, maybe Vikram, you can share your email ID in the chat box. Or Sita ma'am, you can write to us and we will connect you with Vikram. Okay, Ellen is asking that if Plaksha is thinking about launching new courses in the coming years.
I think we want to first stabilize these 4 programs. We've just launched them. But we are constantly thinking. There are many directions. I think we want to launch something in the field of semiconductors, probably. We want to launch something in the field of, we might offer a BS in mathematics. So lots of things. But currently, maybe for the next 2-3 years, we might not launch anything new.
Okay, okay. Milind, Vikram has already explained the criteria for summer course. You need to be in the high school and there will be a form and 2-3 critical thinking questions. You just need to answer them and then the selection will be done. Preferences first come first basis. Milind also wants to know the fee structure for the summer course.
Yeah, so the fee structure last year was around 90,000 for 2 weeks. That included tuition, living, food, everything, laundry, electricity, sab kuch mila ke. And even in there, if there are families who can't afford the program, we give 100% scholarships. But there, the criteria is that you should genuinely come from a family where you can't afford it. So then we give scholarships. Somebody who can easily pay for it will obviously not get any scholarship.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Vikram. It's already 5, but in case you want to show the video, if it is of 2-3 minutes, then you can show and then we can close it.
Let me just see if I have that video. Yeah.
Students actively form and participate in club activities from cybersecurity to baking. They lead hackathons, marathons, community initiatives, and sports fest at the university. Plaksha University is a hub of innovation and possibility, where students become exemplary engineers, find their passion, and embark on a path to success.
I joined Plaksha because I want to push boundaries, make an impact, and make this world a better place to live in. I want to find solutions.
I want to lead fearlessly.
The very short video, but as I said, I invite all of you. The other thing I said, please remember, if you're in the grade 12, if you're keen on taking a good university, visit them. It's not very far. Agar aap Delhi mein ho, to literally Shatabdi takes you like 3 hours. But if you're in any other part of the country, take a flight, go to Plaksha. If you're looking truly for a global engineering program, then I don't think you have too many options. So visit us and you'll get more information. Thanks, Meenu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vikram. Thanks, audience. Thank you so much for being such patient listeners and asking all the relevant questions. Thank you, Vikram, for taking our time to speak to our students and parents and teachers. So hope to see you again. Take care. Thank you.